Volkswagen is being abandoned by its own dealers, and even used car sellers don't want anything to do with them anymore. People are not buying their cars, and the German car giant that we all know and adore is knee-deep in trouble. And we're not just talking about minor setbacks. Just recently, they've been making headlines because of lawsuits that could cost them millions and that huge fire incident. Let me explain. What is exactly happening? Volkswagen is in full-blown crisis mode after one of their electric vehicles allegedly sparked a fire that sank an entire ship. And if that wasn't bad enough, guess what? Volkswagen has now earned the dubious honor of being the most indebted company on the planet with a staggering debt of $92 billion. But here's the burning question: is this colossal company teetering on the edge of a full-on collapse? Well, the answer is simple: they're in big trouble, and to get out, they need to generate some serious amounts of profit. And it doesn't look like that will be happening anytime soon. Volkswagen's ambitions plunge into the EV market was supposed to be their golden ticket to the future. But instead of striking gold, they've hit a massive iceberg. And we have only talked about the tip of it, so let's break down everything. The financial drains. With a jaw-dropping debt of $92 billion, they've found themselves in a financial quagmire. It's like being stuck in a quicksand where every move to get out only pulls you deeper in. To try and wriggle free, Volkswagen's top brass is making some gut-wrenching decisions. Layoffs are becoming the norm, beloved car models are being axed, and EV prices are being slashed in a desperate bid to lure buyers. And on top of all this, the facility ace happened. It is, or should I say was, a colossal car carrier that set sail with a jaw-dropping load of around 4,000 vehicles, including some of the Volkswagen Group's swanky EVs from brands like Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen, and even luxury titans like Bentley and Lamborghini. This wasn't your average boat trip across the Atlantic. It embarked from Emden, Germany, heading towards Davisville, Rhode Island, with a precious cargo that could make any car enthusiast drool. But then something happened. A fire broke out while it was in the middle of the ship. Luckily, the crew got out of there without any damage. The captain, realizing the gravity of the situation, makes the heart-wrenching decision to abandon ship. The crew evacuates, leaving behind not just a ship, but millions of dollars worth of luxury and innovation. And this wasn't just a small flame, it was a raging inferno that devoured the 656-foot vessel from bow to stern. As the Felicity Ace drifted, it became a maritime mystery. Salvage teams and maritime experts watched helplessly as the ship floated aimlessly, a silent testament to the disaster. Every day it drifted, the stakes grew higher. Efforts to tow the vessel to safety turned into a tragic spectacle, as after 2 agonizing weeks of drifting aimlessly like a ghost ship, the Felicity Ace succumbed to the sea, taking its precious cargo with it. And to make matters worse, the owners and insurance company of the Felicity Ace aimed their legal guns directly at the Volkswagen Group. Their claim? They alleged that the fire originated from a lithium-ion battery in one of the Porsche models on board. The financial fallout from this incident was colossal. The total loss was pegged at $438 million, with Volkswagen's share at a whopping $155 million. This wasn't just a financial hit, it was a blow to Volkswagen's reputation and a significant setback in their EV ambitions. And that is not a huge problem because Volkswagen has been suffering from a bad reputation lately. They are under scrutiny and people are not buying their cars anymore, but we need to talk about this in detail, so let's. Sales decline. Volkswagen's electric dreams are becoming, well, just dreams and only that. They've just announced that they're pumping the brakes on their electric vehicle production. The automotive giant is actually cutting back production and slashing shifts at their Emden plant in Germany. It is all because they missed their own sales forecast by a whopping 30%, and that's not just a small slip-up, that's like aiming for the moon and landing in your backyard. Now let's put this in perspective, because the thing is, while Volkswagen's struggling to keep up, other EV makers are absolutely crushing it. I'm talking about Tesla, BYD, and Rivian. These guys are on fire. Take Tesla for example, their sales numbers are so high, they might need a fire extinguisher. We're talking about an insane 83% increase in sales year over year for Q2 2023. That's not true growth, that's like your sales chart decided to cosplay as a rocket. So what gives? Why is Volkswagen eating dust while others are zooming ahead? Well, it's pretty simple when you break it down. Competition. The demand for electric vehicles is definitely there. It's just not knocking on Volkswagen's door, it's more like it's giving Volkswagen's door a quick glance before sprinting over to Tesla's house. And can you blame the customers? When you stack up Volkswagen's EVs against the competition, it's like comparing a flip phone to the latest smartphone. Tesla isn't just selling cars, they're selling a whole experience, a lifestyle, and a ticket to the cool kids' table. Their cars are packed with so much cutting-edge tech that you kind of expect them to transform into robots. And let's not forget BMW. They're serving up a combo of luxury and performance that has EV enthusiasts weak at the knees. So where does that leave Volkswagen? Well, they're offering her kind of like that one friend who's always a step behind on the latest trends. You know, the one who shows up to a party in last year's fashion? It's not that they're that bad, but in a world where being good just doesn't cut it anymore, Volkswagen's EVs are struggling to stand out. They went all in on the EV revolution, betting big on their ID series. But right now, it looks like customers are saying, I would rather not. See what I did there? It's not just about missing sales targets, it's about missing the mark in what customers want and expect from an EV in 2023. The real change for Volkswagen isn't just in the numbers, it's in the hearts and minds of consumers. When people look at a Volkswagen EV, they're not getting that spark of excitement. They need to figure out how to make their EVs more than just another car on the road. They need to find that secret sauce that will make people go, wow, I need to get me one of those. Cutting production might stop the bleeding for now, but it's like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. Volkswagen needs to innovate, and they need to do it yesterday. They're far from finding the solution, and there are 3 huge challenges that they need to overcome first. Let's dissect each one of them. Brand perception. Ever had a favorite restaurant suddenly serve you a string of disappointing meals? Well, that's kind of what Volkswagen EV owners are feeling right now. Imagine that you've just splurged on a shiny new Volkswagen ID4, feeling all eco-friendly and futuristic. But then, bam! Volkswagen drops a bombshell. They're recalling nearly 24,000 ID4s in the US only. Why? Because apparently, these high-tech rides have a bit of a temper tantrum problem. Some interior parts are getting hotter than an jalapeno on a summer day, potentially turning your eco-dream machine into a 4-wheeled fireball. Now, you might be thinking, surely this is just a one-off hiccup, right? Wrong. This recall is like a bad sequel. Nobody wanted it, but here we are. Earlier this year, Volkswagen had to call back almost 21,000 ID4s because they were pulling a disappearing act with their power. Imagine cruising down the highway, wind in your hair, favorite tunes blasting, and suddenly, poof, your car decides it's nap time. But that's not all. There are some unlucky ID4 owners have reported their doors flying open at low speeds. Yes, you heard that right. One minute you're leisurely rolling through your neighborhood, the next, surprise, your door decides it wants to be a wing. It's like your car is auditioning for a Transformers movie, but nobody asked for this performance. And just when you think the story couldn't get any juicier, Volkswagen pulls another rabbit out of their problematic hat. Earlier this year, they had to recall a whopping 35,000 ID4s due to a battery software glitch. It's like these cars have a mind of their own, and frankly, they seem a bit confused about their job description. Remember the good old days when German engineering was the gold standard? When you could buy a German car and feel like you were driving a tank disguised as a luxury vehicle? Well, folks, it seems those days are fading fast. And even the big guns aren't immune to these electric gremlins. Take Mercedes, for instance. Their EQS EV, which cost more than some houses, decided to turn into a fireball while parked in a garage. Tragically, this incident claimed the lives of 3 children. It's a stark reminder that these aren't just inconveniences, they can have devastating consequences. And let's not forget about their $100,000 plus EQS SUV. You'd think for that price, it would be perfect, right? Wrong again. These luxury behemoths are rolling off the assembly line with panel gaps so uneven, you could lose your keys in them. So what's the takeaway from this? Well, it means the old times, when Volkswagen was the epitome of reliability, are gone. And this is the first reason out of the 3 major things Volkswagen is plagued with. But one thing's for sure, if you are in the market for an EV, you might want to pack a fire extinguisher and some duct tape just in case. Who knows? Maybe your car door will decide to take an unscheduled vacation mid-drive. Okay, but all jokes aside, Volkswagen needs to get their things together, because if they don't, they might find themselves left behind as others zoom ahead in the EV race. And this is a huge deal because Volkswagen is one of the biggest manufacturers, and a small change can have a ripple effect on all of us. So let's talk about that for a second. Consequences. Now, I've told you that Volkswagen is in big trouble. But don't just take my word for it. The CEO, Thomas Schaefer, recently dropped a bombshell that's got everyone talking. He didn't just ring a little warning bell, he practically set off air raid sirens. He said that they are spending too much. This is a final wake-up call. The whole company is under a red alert. It's like he's the captain of a ship, frantically yelling, "Iceberg ahead!" to his crew. But instead of an iceberg, it's a mountain of financial troubles threatening to sink the mighty Volkswagen ship. Now, you might be thinking, come on, it can't be that bad, right? Well, it gets even worse. Volkswagen isn't just about cutting back in office snacks or switching to cheaper coffee in the break room. Nope. Remember that shiny new EV factory in Emden? Well, it's about to take an extended vacation. 6 weeks of total shutdown. And those 1,500 temporary workers at the Emden plant, 300 of them are about to join the unemployment line. This isn't just a hiccup in Volkswagen grand EV plans, it's sending shockwaves through the entire industry. It's like watching your invincible older sibling stumble. Suddenly, you're questioning everything you thought you knew about the world. Now, you'd think this would be enough drama for one company, right? But there's an even bigger storm brewing on the horizon. And it's got both Volkswagen and Tesla quaking in their boots. Enter BYD, the Chinese EV manufacturer that's been absolutely crushing it in sales. This is actually the second thing that is concerning Volkswagen, and to be honest, every other EV maker. So let's focus on that now. The new market. Last year, Volkswagen managed to sell about 12,000 EVs in China over an entire quarter. Not too shabby, right? Well, Tesla blew past that number with 28,000 EVs sold in just 1 month. But BYD outdid even Tesla, pushing a whopping 30,000 EVs off the lot in the same time frame. It's like watching a tortoise in a rabbit race, but the rabbit brought a supersonic jet. Remember when Volkswagen was the cool kid in the Chinese market? The life of the party, the one everyone wanted to hang out with? Well, those days seem to be fading fast. They haven't even made it into the top 10 BEV manufacturers for the first half of this year. But what's going on? Why are Chinese consumers giving Volkswagen the cold shoulder? Well, it turns out that as wallets have gotten fatter, tastes have gotten pickier. The average Chinese car buyer isn't just looking for a reliable set of wheels anymore, they want style, they want luxury, and they want that wow factor. And let's face it, when you're comparing a Volkswagen to a sleek Tesla Model Y or a swanky BMW i3, it's like putting a pair of comfy sneakers next to some designer stilettos. Sure, the sneakers might be more practical, but which one's going to turn heads at the party? But it's not just about the glitz and glamour, BYD's also been quietly dominating the more budget-friendly end of the market. They're like the cool local brand that suddenly became everyone's favorite, offering that perfect mix of style and affordability that's got everyone talking. That is why they're losing the battle over in China, which was their biggest market. But what about Europe, their home turf? Well, in the first quarter of 2024, Volkswagen's accounts were sweating bullets as they crunched the numbers. What's the deal? Why is Volkswagen suddenly struggling to keep up in the race? The answer is lower sales volumes and skyrocketing costs, because let's face it, everything's getting more expensive these days. Volkswagen managed to keep their sales revenue stable and even saw a tiny uptick in unit sales. We're talking a 1.8% increase. It's not exactly champagne popping worthy, but hey, growth is growth, right? But here's where things get tricky. Despite this slight sales boost, Volkswagen's operating profit took another hit, dropping by 8.2% to 3.5 billion euros. So what's causing this financial fumble? First up, we've got those annoying supply chain issues. Remember when we all realized how crucial the supply chain was during the pandemic? Well, it's still a mess for the big players like Volkswagen. Imagine trying to bake a cake, but the store keeps running out of eggs and flour. It's frustrating and costly. And did you know that 80% of our battery minerals come from China? Yep, and just last month, China decided to throw a curveball by banning the export of those crucial resources. What's the impact on us? Well, EVs are about to get a lot pricier. China is the big challenge. This is the third thing that Volkswagen is really concerned with. China has a near monopoly on the production of key battery components like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. With their recent export ban, they've tightened their grip even more, making these resources scarcer and pricier for everyone else. This move is a masterstroke in economic strategy, pushing competitors to the brink while bolstering their own position. And guess who's lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce? BYD, China's EV powerhouse, is backed by their government's deep pockets. Their game plan? Slash prices to undercut everyone else and slowly but surely dominate our market. It's like a high-stakes chess game, with China making all these strategic moves while Western companies scramble to keep up. The big question is, can Volkswagen and other traditional automakers adapt quickly enough, or are we witnessing a massive shift in the global auto industry? China accounts for a whopping 40% of Volkswagen's global sales. You would think they would have a good read on the market, right? Wrong. While Volkswagen's scratching their heads, Chinese buyers are cruising around in sleek rides like the BYD Seal, Zeekr 007, and Neo ES7. This isn't just a battle of brands, it's a clash of economic titans. Western automakers like Volkswagen, Ford, and General Motors are now racing against time. They must innovate faster, streamline operations, and perhaps most critically, secure alternative sources of raw materials. Failure to adapt could mean ceding significant market share to their Chinese counterparts. Volkswagen's CEO decided to invest a whopping $700 million in a Chinese car startup called XPeng. Sounds like a smart move, right? Well, hold on to your hats because that plan crashed and burned up. XPeng's CEO saw his net worth plummet from an astounding $12 billion to just $1.4 billion in 1 year. And it gets even worse for Volkswagen. Remember the ID.7 EV? Volkswagen was banking on this model to be their game changer. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. In its first week, only 300 people decided to give it a shot. That's not just disappointing, it's like throwing a party and only your cousin shows up. If you ask me, this might be the last we see of this giant in full effect. But what do you think? Let's know in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.